Hello, and thanks for coming on. Um, hello, technical. Always some technicals going on, but we're good. I want to say thank you to everyone for coming in and watching. Thanks. This is the Education's Best Medicine, hosted by the Coroner and the Eyes of Conscious Soul. Ms. Howard will be back in her position next week. Again, um, as you know, as things move and things change, we grow and she's a person that's out there doing what she needs to do. I always tell people I'm comfortable with being an Indian. I don't have to be a chief. That being said, I want to welcome everyone. I want to welcome um, um, Believe Radio and I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Hopefully, you'll be able to catch us either on Facebook or on our TV. Some technicals are going on, but we'll be fine. Um, First of all, I want to say uh, a lot of the information that I'm using to cover is free and accessible. You can look at the California Task Force to study the development for reparations for African Americans. Again, African Americans, not blacks, African Americans. And it's available, and I will cite this on an ongoing basis throughout the next year or so. So please tune. Um, Also, there was an article about what Black Californians think about their health care. This was the CCHF.org article, California Health Institute. Um, and you can look it up. You can look up what Black Californians are saying about health, and it'll pop up. Or you pick up chcf.org, uh, and it will bring you to that website. It's a great website, doing a lot of cutting edge information and data on healthcare systems as it relates to African Americans in California. And we'll talk about that history, and I want people to kind of understand that. First of all, thanks for watching and thanks for tuning in. I want to thank my entire family, folks over in Vacaville that are listening to me and I've worked with, and really appreciate them. And we continue to grow and change, and as things change, we'll keep abreast of it. And I'd like to start with the vision statement of education is the best medicine. The view of education is the best medicine is and has been and will always be to see the unseen while shining light on the darkness in our community, in our world. Um, and I think that's pretty appropriate. Speaking of light and darkness, I want to say a special happy birthday to Kaylee. She's 10 now. She's my best great great granddaughter. And I'm heading to a party as soon as we get through with this broadcast, and I want to let her know that uh, during her mother's funeral, she was my rock, and I could not have made it without her. And her grandparents, I want to thank them, and I want to thank all the folks and family members that have supported us in this time. But what is not known, I have to share this because it just shows me how resilient and loving her mother was and will always be. Is that Jamie was a preemie. She's 10 now, but she was 2 pounds 5 ounces, if I remember the card. And I can only remember how well my granddaughter took care of my great great granddaughter and brought her back to health. And now we're going to celebrate her being 10 years on this earth, and I'm just excited about that. Um, and that's why maternal survival is so important. We need to understand why Black mothers, uh, from the most poorest to the most well endowed, have such a problem bringing children into the world without risking not only their lives but the child's life. We don't understand this. Again, we're starting to understand it, and I think that that's one of the things that kind of concerns me. That from a historical standpoint, as I said before, if you have a system that one was never made for you, two does not really uh, want you, and three really doesn't care, then you have a recipe for disaster. Um, I want to give we've been talking about gun violence, and it kind of really bothered me today. In the last couple of days, this young rapper from the Amigos, and very talented group. See, I'm diverse, and I want to understand what my grandchildren want to understand, so I can understand where they're at. And the Amigos, although kind of like through rapping, they're kind of like not old, but kind of further in the mature level. Not like a baby or someone like that. And the reason why you should listen to the music, not whether you like it or not. I can remember my parents not liking the Temptations, or not liking the Shy Lights, or thinking that George Clinton was a really weird guy from Parliament, Funkadelic, and Earth, Wind, and Fire. So if I'm dating myself, we had these same issues with our music and the music that I embrace now. I was driving home and I listened to Jimi Hendrix. Now, Jimi Hendrix was probably my first, prior to Prince, and I love Prince, but prior to Prince, it was Jimi Hendrix. And he was absolutely an astonishing, polished musician, but he also was a showman. And if you look at some of his stuff, you can see, again, just what I'm thinking about. Um, I want to say a special um, shout out to the family. I want to dedicate this show to Miss Barbara Ann Coleman. Miss Coleman was a superior public health advocate in Berkeley Public Health, and was a tireless advocate of the community. And as when she retired from public health, she did not stop doing her a vision about creating a center for African Americans as an ongoing vision, and it will be carried out. Um, she was an activist, and we didn't always agree, but we didn't have to. Uh, um, uh, she was very clear in her commitment to mental health and public health of African Americans in Berkeley and in the area. Um, she was um, in the physical and mental health of our community was her highest priority. Um, she was a great wife, great mother, great family person, and all that knew her loved her. And after you love her, you respect her, because she was trying to do the right thing. And I bring her up because my understanding that recently she died from breast cancer. Again, this is just last month was breast cancer month, and I want to wish her and her family the best. She will be missed but not forgotten, and it kind of leads me into loss, because I understand that Miss Tiffany Haddish, who's on one of the major networks, won't mention it, was just dropped from the rotation because of her appearance on a cable program, Charlemagne. And she was having a conversation like uh, folks have in America, where we are free to express our views and should be able to do that. But unfortunately, may not be the case for Miss Haddish. It definitely wasn't the case for Kanye West, whether you agree with them or not. It definitely wasn't the case recently, Kyrie Irving. Now, whether you like what they said or don't like what they say, whether you thought it was fair or injurious to people, that's okay. It could have been, and I am not for words, because I believe words matter. I asked September the 6th, do words matter? My issue is that when certain people say things, they are not held to the same lens that other folks that you would not think are held to, in terms of being accountable, in terms of being, it depends on their livelihood, it depends on all those kinds of issues. So I'm hoping Miss Haddish will land in a situation that allows her to voice her views and not feel she's going to be decapitated for doing that. Again, lies, truth, truth, lie. Just depends on who's saying it. And I think that that's something that um, uh, has caused this divide. It's a divide in our humanity. Yeah, I do not devalue any person or any one in humankind, any animal, any being. Uh, uh, but what I hear and what I want to hear is two different things. I want to believe that the truth isn't a lie and the lie is the truth, but that's what I'm hearing because again, certain people are giving a pass and go in terms of what they say and what they do, and certain people are held to the most highest realistic standards that the society holds. Um, and it got me into a discussion yesterday. I was meeting with my board, and we were discussing and trying to develop. I'm president of a non-paying, of course, president of the Byron Rufford Housing Board. Byron Ruffin, again, if you don't know him, look him up. Stellar African American, one of the first African Americans in legislature, one of the first African Americans to write the Byron Ruffin Housing Act, which is why we're doing what we're doing. And I want to commend the governor for holding back the 1 billion in housing funds, and because I heard a number of mayors upset about it, and what the governor said, and again, please don't forget to vote. Get out there and vote. Voting is the only way, one of the only ways we can do to speak in this society. When we don't vote, my dad would say, when you don't vote, you give two votes, one that you didn't provide and the one that the opposition uses to beat you over the head with. So I wanted to understand with my housing board, and I want to talk with them about because we're here trying to make a little bit out of nothing, being told that there's only certain monies that we have for housing, and and again, $1 billion is being held because the governor said that the plans that he saw for housing in California weren't expedient enough. They didn't have, again, again, makes sense, right? Um, this is what happens when money has been targeted for one thing, but it goes to another. And he's asking, he's asking for an audit to find out where the money has gone. It's really interesting when money is provided for social justice or for poverty. It seems to, if you ask Brett Favre, get misused. But when it's for something else, when it's for it appears to be graft and corruption, you can't find enough. So again, I tell folks they better vote because if what happens, you're gonna. I always say you get the leadership that you vote for. So you get the leadership that you think is going to represent you or not going to represent you. And so if you're listening to what one group is saying and what another group is saying, you should be concerned because, again, to me right now, it's party over country. It's not the will of the people. It's how you can disrupt the will of the people. It's, well, if you're worried about gas and oil, this happened 20 years ago in the Arab oil embargo. Look it up. This is nothing new. So again, like we should be have moving to, or we've tried to move to new sources of energy. The oil companies are making gazillions and then saying, well, we know that in another couple of years we're not going to be able to sell this one anyway because we're going to be um, most people are going to be using EVs. Well, not at $60,000 a vehicle. So just some thoughts, and it got me into with Brian Lufford and my board the discussion around um, housing. And in reality, this is from the reparations preliminary white paper that I believe has been approved. again, don't just believe what people say. Go listen and look at it. One of the discussions around history, I've always said, is that is it history or his story? We keep getting his story. We're not getting history because history is advanced race theory. So, and I know this is a health-based show, but food, clothing, and shelter are basic to health. That's what I found in my 30 years of practice. It's not always the pill that I give. It's the ability to get a person housing, transportation, food, clothing. Those really determine whether a person responds to the care that I want to provide them, regardless of what it is. Again, breast cancer is a team approach. Not just one person takes care of you in breast cancer. If you're not getting a team approach in your breast cancer treatment, then it's not an appropriate way to go. Because nobody knows it all. Again, as they told me about the team, the oncologist, the internist, the physical therapist, the breast reconstructionist, the breast surgeon team. And so, as I was talking with my board, and I reviewed this document from the reparations discussion, it says that nationally, America's racial hierarchy was a foundation on a system of segregation in the United States after the Civil War. So, you leave slavery, and then you go from slavery to Reconstruction, which is a very short period, and then you go to segregation or Jim Crow. So at the end of Reconstruction, the troops were pulled out. There's a gentleman's agreement that the South, or America would go back to what it is. I hate saying the South. America, the country, was a slave country. Why is that true? Because if you left a slave state and went to a free state, you could be returned to your state of origin or your slave owner of origin. This was codified in law. California was extremely high about this. And so part of the issue around segregation, it was to force African Americans to live in worse conditions or in every aspect of life. You force where I live. You force the stores to come into my area. You force my ability to get transportation. You force my ability to have police protection. But you tax me. You tax me the same, or you tax me more. And so, government working with private individuals actually segregated America into black and white neighborhoods, and that still exists today. I know we like to think it doesn't, but it still exists today. Uh, um, Although the system of segregation was called Jim Crow, and I wanted to talk about um, Jim Crow because we hear about it, but we don't really understand it. And this is from Wikipedia. Jim Crow law in history, because it gets back to segregation, right? So when you want to have power over me, you want to separate yourself from me and put me in a ghetto. Now, ghettos aren't just for Africans in America. There were Jewish ghettos. There were Irish ghettos. There were Italian ghettos. So, but if you want to enforce a certain mindset, and I say that what we say is that it's called cognitive dissonance. And if you're interested in that, go read about Dr. Ukuri's post-traumatic slave syndrome. And she talks about the fact that if you want to, in order to control and manage or put someone in a system called slavery, or to, you know, have them on the lowest level of society, you have to believe that they're not human, that they don't deserve to have the same rights and privileges as you. And that starts in the Constitution with 3/5 of a human being. So this is a systematic, ongoing, full blown running assault on us in every aspect of our lives. And I'll just talk about some of the sections. Um, I want to thank Dr. James Taylor, who is Professor Ermas, and you might see him on TV in a while. Dr. Taylor is one. Look him up. He's one of the most, in my mind, one of the best critical thinkers about the African American experience. Um, the Jim Crow in the U.S. Any laws that enforce racial segregation in the South between the inner Reconstruction and again, uh, we talk about that in a context of freedom. So when we continue to have a system of law that actively usurped our freedom by segregation, because the discussion around segregation is saying that you are so unwelcome, unhuman, unleveled that we don't want you in our neighborhoods. We don't want you in our schools. Now we're having this whole thing around affirmative action. So it's kind of laughable that folks that say that the world should uh, be about discrimination ran a system of segregation from the onset of slavery to today. So I always think about that in terms of, you shoot me in the leg, tell me to run a 100-yard dash, I win, and you say I cheated. Um, and it's interesting too, because Jim Crow was the name of a minstrel routine, actually jumped Jim Crow, performed started in 1828 by its author Thomas Dormuth Daddy Rice and many imitators. So this is where the blackface comes into play. This is where um, these stereotypes are really escalated in terms of African American men accosting white women, being sexual predators. The birth of a nation is a real primary example of the media's use to uh, stereotype and to uh, paint us in a picture less than human. This is why I brought up Miss Haddish. Her humanity was too much for a network. Again, the discussions around advanced race theory say that the stuff that we're talking about shouldn't be talked about in schools because it would hurt the dominant white male class. Well, what about all the years of, again, history versus history? Take Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States. Take him and look at his history. Now, if raping a young African American woman starting at I think it was the age 13, 14, maybe even younger, and her, Sally Hemings, burying him children, living with him for the rest of her life is something that we should be concerned about from a historical standpoint, understand, then we haven't gotten it right yet because it talks about dehumanization of women, control of women, subjugation of women of color. Slavery does not exist without white females. Um, and I want to understand that this is, as I was talking to my board yesterday, this was just housing. But in reality, this whole dialogue was created to keep us divided, keep us at the front of the lines of needy, of the traumatized lines of, get up, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, so because that's what they're saying. They're saying that everything has been fair. There's no need for formula because everything's been fair. Everything's been fair and equal. We've been fair and equal. Ooh, fair and equal. Isn't that a discussion of separate but equal? Separate but equal. Then if it's not equal, then how could it be separate? It's just like right now we're in a, I think we're in a point in society where people are choosing party over country because it's better. The whole discussion around the country being taken over by people of color and the displacement of white men is kind of scary because how can you do that when you don't have any power? The discussion around racism implies that you have power. I can dislike you as an African American man. I can be uncomfortable with you. I may not like your views, but I can't be racist because I don't have any power. And what I mean by that is that power implies that I can change your life. I can take away your money from you. I can take your job, Tiffany Haddish. I can bankrupt you, Kyrie Irving, Kanye West. That's real power. We ain't got that power. We never had it. So, in it, I think that the discussion around housing, um, and it's kind of started with redlining. So, uh, some of the discussions were that uh, in California particularly, the federal, state, and local governments create segregation through redlining, zoning ordinances, decisions on where to build schools, highways, discriminatory federal mortgage policies. So when I was growing up, we weren't working hard enough. My parents, the parents of people I do know, worked doggone hard. 2 and 3 jobs, late night jobs, 18 hours. I saw my grandfather, I love him. I saw my dad, I love him, work 12 to 14 hours a day at least to get the same money that their white male counterparts were getting. But the scenario, the stereotype is that we're lazy and we're not interested because that's where this issue comes around talking to black Californians about their health care because the stereotypes that were implied don't fit the answers that those folks were given. Hopefully, I'll get a chance to talk about that. So, in California, they had sundown towns, a term derived from municipal announcing that African American must leave by dusk, like most of the suburbs in Los Angeles and San Francisco. Bay Area? I thought it was just in the South. I thought this was a Southern construct. No, it was an American construct. American as apple pie. And prohibit Africans from living in entire cities throughout the state. The federal government financed many whites-only neighborhoods throughout the state. Imagine that. The white neighborhoods, that's why there were lines. Hey, you can go to Berkeley and pass now what is, I would say, Telegraph. Pass Telegraph, you were in trouble. Up near uh, the Claremont Hotel, past that invisible red line, you were in trouble. And it was just a feeling. If there was anything that was said, you knew that you were in different territory. The Federal Homeowners Loan Corporation mapped it. map the red line describe many California neighborhoods in racially discriminatory terms. For example, San Diego, there were serving areas in La Jolla and several areas restricted to Caucasian race. During World War II, the federal government paid to build segregated housing. Again, this is all in this uh, report on reparations. So imagine a system that from day one, where you live, no loans, no transportation, but where other folk live, where white folk live, they get transportation, policing, clean up the neighborhood. Everything was for them. And I want to thank RTV. I want to thank Isaac Conscious Soul for supporting this segment of Education is the Best Medicine. I want to thank all my viewership. And please listen in. Look, taking a person like Tiffany Haddish off is like, well, we want you to hear something, but we don't want you to hear everything. And so there's two societies, unfortunately. And until that changes, we will have what we have. And if the discussion is party over country, then we're really in trouble because chaos ensues when good people do nothing. Um, San Diego, servant areas. I wonder who the servants were. It says that in World War II, the federal government paid to build segregated housing for defense workers in Northern California. The white workers generally had better constructed and permanent housing, while white workers lived in rooms paid for by the federal government. Black wartime workers lived in cardboard shacks, barns, tents, open fields. Racially restrictive covenants, which were clauses in property deeds that usually allow only white residents to live on the property described on the deed. Interesting. So that's when you codify racial segregation. So on those deeds, it said specifically you couldn't have an African American buy that house. You could not sell it to them. And that was law. Um, and the reason why I'm talking about this is that these things just didn't happen. It took a number of years. It took 300 years to get to this point. So where we're back to limiting your ability to vote, to cast your vote, limiting access to the vote, access to the poll. I thought that was one of the most basic rights of free Americans, one that was given to us after we were removed from slavery. Again, I'm talking about African Americans, 1619 Project, representing the reparations paper. That's what I'm talking about. That's who this affected. All the other groups were fine with it, but they didn't affect them the way it affected us. You might see discussions around the Chinese railroad workers, but even then, they could go back home. If you were an African American released from slavery, you were at home, and basically, like a naked baby, we were freed and told to go make our fortune. Anyway. So again, we talk about this is California. It says that numerous neighborhoods around the state rezone black neighborhoods for industrial use to steer white residents toward better neighborhoods. So you wonder why in a place like Oakland, the freeway goes right through the city. Why they're having to do major cleanup in terms of metal work, uh, uh, metalwork, industrial. We had all those kinds of industries that provided pollution and had to have materials trucked out and trucked in. And our neighborhoods were basically until gentrification. Wow, were the stopping grounds for a lot of the repositories from the industrial issue for us in our communities. We had to live with it. We had to live with it. always wanted as a little boy, right there by the infirmary, why this big building, this big construction issue, when there were factories. Since then, they've been zoned out, and those jobs went with them, right? The jobs left as those industries left, and we still can't get clean water. Operating under state law for urban redevelopment, the city of San Francisco declared that the Western Addition blighted and destroyed the Fillmore in San Francisco's most prominent black neighborhood and business district. In doing so, the city of San Francisco closed 883 businesses, displaced 4,729 households, destroyed 2,500 Victorian homes, and damaged the lives of nearly 20,000 people, African Americans. So, segregation. That's what segregation did to us. The city left the land empty for many years. So, not only do they move us out, they leave it blighted for years. Why? Because it's gentrification. You take the person off the land, devalue the land because it's in the black community, but in reality, no, it ain't devalued. It's devalued because they don't want to pay what they would have to pay an African American. Again, you see this whole big issues now about African American family has a home, they devalue it by at least $50,000, at least. The name and home in the same neighborhood or near it, valued up $50,000. Um, The slave states denied education to nearly all enslaved people, while the North and Midwest segregated their schools. So again, I told you that this was a global peace. Um, and after slavery, Southern states maintained racial hierarchies by legally segregating black and white children, and white-controlled legislatures funded by the black public. The image on the left shows a relining map in Oakland, California. I wish I could show it to you, but it shows how we were displaced, how we've been displaced, how we continue to be displaced. And again, this harkens back to Jim Crow. Not only that, but the pathologization of the black family. We're still in health, right? We still have to be in health. Food, clothing, shelter, family is what defines a healthy group of people. Lack of those things almost surely denigrates you to health health issues. It's the whole idea of stress, the whole idea of trauma, the whole idea of intergenerational trauma. And when you layer it on a system that one undermines your ability to live in a certain area, get a certain job, get a certain education, to feel safe, recipe for disaster. And again, we're blamed for this. It's our fault. Now, again, I don't mind taking responsibility for anything, but I refuse to be blamed for a system that inherently has made it so that I can't achieve. You know, and I think that that is really, really, really the crux of this. Again, I want to wish my granddaughter a happy birthday. Kaylee, you're my light. I love you. And I'm so glad that you are in my life. And we cool. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about the pathologization of the African, again, in the reparations paper. Imagine that with all these things happening, how could you not have a disease process in the black family? You create the conditions for it: food, clothing, and shelter, lack of education, segregated communities. How is a person supposed to survive that? Well, we did. And even so, in 2022, still there's an oppressive yoke because it was supposed to destroy us. Like the Native Americans, it was supposed to destroy them and didn't. So I'll read a little bit of this, and then again, this is from the reparations. Pathologization of the black family. National government policies and practices at all levels have destroyed black families through the American history. After the Civil War, Southern state governments enslaved children by making them apprentices. Have you ever heard of this in any other group? Where after slavery, your children can be deemed apprentices so they can work more. This big thing with child labor. It's always been. It's just whose children were the laborers. And forcing them to labor for white Americans. Again, always the enslaved have to serve the enslaver, the ex-enslaver. Our children grow up feeling that they don't have any hope because they have to serve this person. They go home to their parents, but they have to serve this other person. And his word is almost as large as his parents, probably more so. Um, and sometimes they were their former enslavers. So again, the pathologization of the black family is an ongoing piece. Um, in the past, your state and federal governments and financial systems for child welfare systems were based on decisions on the racist beliefs created to maintain slavery. So even the aid we provided was on a racist tilt. You didn't deserve it. You're trying to live off the fat of the land, that kind of thing. As though our 300 years of forced labor and free labor didn't count for a welfare check, for food stamps. Now, look, speaking of voting, the Republicans are saying they're cutting all these entitlement programs. He said all of them. They said all of them to everybody. So that's where that money line changes. And if you're on that line that needs those things and they decide it's too much, they're talking about more tax breaks, more tax cuts. Think about it. Um, and the decisions were racist. The decisions for child welfare were made on racist beliefs to maintain slavery and continue to operate today as badges of slavery. Government issued finance assistance was excluded African Americans from receiving benefits. In the early 1900s, state government made support payments every month to low income senior mothers to assist them with expenses incurred while raising children. Now, for all those folks that are right to life and are removing abortion, it's already said that there's no money for those children that they would have to have. I think it's kind of interesting you tell me to have a child, but you don't tell me how to support it. Because 300 years ago, it was a slave child that would go to work in the field when they got of size. Black families were generally excluded despite their greater need. Scholars have found that racial discrimination exists in every stage of the child welfare process. The data shows that when equally poor black and white families compared, even when both families are considered to be equal risk for future abuse, state agencies were more likely to remove black families than white families from welfare. Yeah, isn't that interesting? The pathologization of the black family. on the most basic needs of food, clothing, and shelter, on the most basic needs of education, we were denied. We were limited. We were sectioned. No other community can say that. No other community can say that they are in the Constitution is 3/5 of a human being. Until they can say that, then you walk in my shoes. So I want to go back to what Black Californians as we close it out. It's been great. I want to thank you for listening. Hey, we're gonna have guests and we're getting all the little uh, bugs out. And it's gonna be nice. I'm really excited about the future with RTV and with the organization and Adamology, who doing his best. Again, we're not scripted to make it. We're scripted to fail. So we have to be about making it. So that's why I show up and I'm prepared because I don't think that I owe you any less. Uh, by the way, yellow is the color for November. Did you know that, Kaylee? You know that yellow is the color for November? That's interesting. So the discussion around um, Black Californians in terms of health, I thought was a really, really interesting discussion. Again, you can find on the CHOR. Says listening to Black Californians finding help from again, Cal AIM. This is new discussion, and so and what this survey is kind of it says that the survey dispels the narrative that Black people don't care about their health when actually they are very intentional. This is Connie Stewart, leading the Black California Advisory Group member at Cal Poly Humboldt. Key findings of what Black Californians experience. Black Californians are highly intentional in their pursuit of physical and mental health. Most Black Californians, again, African American slash Black, all right? I always want you to stay with that for me. Most Black Californians meet report focusing. Reason why I bring it up because it's a uh, a wish to homogenize all Black folk. Black folk are a diaspora on the African continent, on the European continent, on the Caribbean continent. They are diaspora slash African Americans, says a distinct group of Africans that were shuttled off and had a different kind of experience. The slave experience, the child slave experience. So it says the pursuit of quality of care. Black Californians are highly intentional in the pursuit of physical and mental health. Black Californians reward focusing on their mental health, getting appropriate screening of preventive care, and tracking health indicators such as blood pressure and cholesterol. Now, again, I went to Stanford, which I'm finding now may not be so good as a man of color. Um, when I went to Stanford, um, and I'm seeing, I think it was an internal medicine lecture, and consistently in these lectures, African Americans were number one risk, number one to die. Heart disease, cancer, you name it. Today, maternal health didn't matter. So when I heard that, the obvious discussion is, oh, they must not be taking care of themselves. Again, stereotype, listening to Black Californians, highly intentional about their care. It says most Black Californians are insured to have a regular provider and have had at least one visit with a healthcare provider in the last year. 9 in 10 Californians, 90% say they currently have health insurance coverage. 83% have a regular provider, and 9 in 10 Californians have seen a doctor for a healthcare provider in the last year. Now, hey, I know those numbers are tough. It's been post-COVID, but the very fact that Africans in America, Black Californians would say that, man, I have insurance, and man, I try to get screenings. It's huge. It's huge from what I've heard. So again, um, the discussions are real. They're real for us, real for where we're going, all that. Uh, This one woman, I think I said it last time, I thought it was so significant. Failures of the healthcare system. Since she says, I feel like black voices aren't as loud. They're not taking it as seriously. Uh, Again, cognitive dissonance. I was listened to, and I ended up being very serious in a very serious life-threatening problem. I told my provider I was short of breath, and he told me, "You're out of shape. You need to lose weight and exercise." It ended up that I was anemic and needed two blood transfusions. Not uncommon. Story of the day. More times than not, you hear the same thing. Why is that? Well, if I don't think you're important, if I don't think you carry status or weight or can hold you accountable, then it's what I want it to be. And this is a black woman in a group participant. She had private insurance. Nearly 1 in 3 Black Californians have been treated unfairly in the healthcare as a healthcare provider because of their race or ethnicity, or their gender or their sex. All goes. This experience occurs particularly to Black Californians with mental health conditions. 40%, 7% of those who identify as LBGT, okay, includes lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or questioning, intersex, asexual, more than 43%. For those with disabilities, uh, and 40% for women, 40%. A significant number of Black Californians overall, 38%, and Black women in particular, said there's been a time when a health provider did not treat their pain adequately. Now, here's an interesting discussion. I think we're going to have it. The current data for the use of opiates state that the use of opiates should not occur any more than 7 days acutely. And then we should move to a non opiate like drug. The initial discussion is to start off with a non opiate drug, Tylenol, um, ibuprofen, non steroidal anti-inflammatories, you know, hot and cold, those kinds of therapies. Now, this whole big issue around opiate abuse use started with the discussion was there valid information to use opiates of a long-term period? That data, unless I'm missing something, still does not exist. What has happened is been an outcry from individuals that have not had their pain treated adequately, which is the standard of care in a mess anyway. Now, I can't, in good conscience, use a drug that has no study evidence for a condition that at risk for addiction. That because of social outcry now, we need to re-examine this. Well, the train's out the horse is out the stable, because I can see a scenario where a provider provides opiate medicines to an individual, the person overdoses, and the family members come back and sue the providers saying that they shouldn't have prescribed it in the first place. That's the scenario that I see. And again, no science to back up the long-term use of opiate drugs. Palliative care, in terms of people that die from cancer, uh, surgery, and only for a short time. The rest, there's no studies for it. No studies for the long-term use of opiates. Again, the group that's gotten addicted and is abusive of them can still has a right to pain treatment. That's what we're hearing, right? So Black Californians adopt measures to mitigate potential negative experience in preparation for a health visit. Yeah, if I don't think you're going to treat me properly, I have to, come in, you come in prep. I tell my patients, do your homework. We're talking about this medicine, so look at it, go read about it before we do it. Do your homework. And what they agreed that should be done. I've got about 5 minutes. Again, I want to thank you guys for listening. I want to thank Miss Howard and the Eyes of the Conscious Soul, the coroner, for supporting the segment of Education's Best Medicine. I want to, again, do my best wish to Barbara Coleman, and my best happy birthday to my granddaughter. The twixt in between. You lose one, gain another. And here were some of the things that they said should be done. And I think it's kind of important that we talk about that. Black Californians agree on the importance of strengthening the patient-provider relationship. Firstly, all Black Californians consider it extremely important or very important to have a provider who listens to them, who spends the time needed to answer questions, and who discusses specific health goals. I remember I was in an interview, this is a couple of years back, and I said the same thing, that we don't listen to our patients and that we need to give more time to target and to plan for the kind of health outcomes that people want to have. This is an interview. No. Did I get the job or not? Of course I didn't get the job. Because this system at this point in time does not want to listen, doesn't want to spend time at questions, and doesn't want to map out a plan, because that means you have to be collaborative with that individual and work with them again to get to their health goals. It's their health goals, not yours. You may think a person needs to lose weight, and they may say, you need to treat my depression. Instead of me following the weight train, I have to follow the mental health train, because that's what's important to the client. Black Californians have clear plans on how to make the healthcare system work better. More than 3 in 4 respondents say it's extremely important and very important to increase Black representation among healthcare leaders and providers, expand community-based education and advocacy, train providers to hold healthcare system accountable. Approximately 7 in 10 Black Californians think it should be extremely important and very important to develop more holistic approaches to healthcare and healthcare by African Americans for African Americans that really reflect their needs and want, and not just the ability to see people or see patients. Unfortunately, the healthcare visit is an economic unit, and any business wants to maximize the economic unit as much as they can. If we don't change the way people are paid, so it makes it more accountable to listen, to provide quality care, and to ultimately have a collaborative relationship. That's why I'm for the patient-centered medical home. I believe it's the best mix of medical and psychiatric issues that says that we value African Americans in your care. We want you to be the best we can be. How can we get you there? Last thing, and is that we need to listen. We need to share. We need to understand that life is short, and that we need to be the best people we can be. We got to hug and love the people. That one of the interviews about this brother from the Amigos that was murdered was that one of the family members said that people need to learn how to love and be honest and open and share, and not say you love a person or that, because you don't know. You don't know when they'll be their last day. Barb, I didn't know it was going to be your last day. Uh, and I am forever sorry about that. Uh, in this life, in this time, you're moving, you're trying to do what you do, and sometimes you get lost. I'm to a birthday party today because a 10-year-old great grandchild says that I should be there and to bring a Barbie dollhouse. I couldn't find it, but I found some nice Barbie stuff. Barbie. Barbie? That's what she wanted. So it's her birthday. I want to thank folks for tuning in. It's been absolutely wonderful. Uh, I kind of went a few places because I need to go there. Um, and again, you should tune in this, check out this Listening Black Californians. It was the largest focus group on health care experience of Black Californians to date. It represented in-depth interviews of 100 Black Californians at a focus group, as well as a survey of 3,325 Black Californians. Key, very, very key. Get out there and vote. Drive careful. Uh, Travel mercies. Um, uh, I want to again thank you for taking the time to allow me to share on this kind of rainy, cold afternoon in Oakland, California. Uh, and we'll keep it moving. Um, I want to thank all of you, all family. I want to thank my sister, Tricelina Juanita Smith. Tricelina Smith. It's her birthday month. Since I ain't forgot the flowers, I'll get them to you. And my other sister, Francesca, and my niece and her husband. I want to wish them well. And sometimes sometimes even when you don't get along with family, they're still family, and you gotta love them anyway. Uh, no, sis, I ain't forgot you. I ain't forgot your flowers. I know I couldn't get out this month without you getting them. So again, I want to thank the Eyes of Conscious Soul for and the Corner for supporting this segment of Education is the Best Medicine. I want to thank all the folks on Facebook, and I want to thank all of you who take the time to listen and play back and share. Look here, we want to keep this going. We want to move. I'm trying to move in different areas and things that I don't think folks are hearing about because you know it's all. I want to be uncommonly not common. So, with that, I want to wish you a blessings and safe travel, and keep the love of God all in your heart, and say a kind word, help a friend. You know, uh, they say, if not for the grace of God, then I've been very blessed and continue to believe that's a great way of living of life and sharing. Um, please take care of yourself. We'll see you next time, and be peaceful. Thank you. Goodbye.